Hello and welcome to Hidden Assets. I'm Chris, and with me is Ryan.
Hi, everybody.
What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. Ready to get into this. Get ready to get into serious, I guess. That's what, that's what we're going to do today.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. So this is a sort of like segment, I guess. I don't know what you call it, like a little series we're going to be doing, focusing on Nasir because we have a lot of Nasir players in our area, and we all want him to be awesome, pretty much. And so this is the build you were playing, I believe, sprang up from Netrunner DB. Is that right?
That is correct. That is. It has the. There was a nice little tutorial that the guy wrote. I don't know his name off the top of my head.
I think it was Contrast.
Contrast.
So shout outs, man.
And he had Replicator in there, and he was sort of espousing the virtues of Replicator as a way to dig out all the hardware and to even in a pinch be a sort of faux Plascrete.
Which is awesome. I hadn't thought about using it that way. It's tricky to get going if you can actually do it, but I can see it working that way. Like, you know, if you have a really long game that you're worried about getting scorched out at or something like that. So how is this? So I should probably introduce you guys. On the left, that is you, Ryan,
that is me.
Playing.
Yes.
And on the right is Cassidy. And so he's playing Blue Sun, one of the new identities from Up and Over, I believe.
That is correct.
Awesome.
Blue Sun is awesome.
It is awesome. It is super frustrating to play against as Nasir if the Blue Sun player is playing Oversight AI.
Yes, that is a bad one. Some of the lists have Ash in them too, which is also Nasir's biggest enemy, I've found. And the good old-fashioned C-Source or mid-seasons, which a lot of them seem to pack too, is also not something Nasir is great at dealing with. But that comes down to sort of how you build his economy. And I think going forward, I might have an Opus in my Nasir deck, at least one, because you need to be able to do stuff with tags. Right. And the workshop and the KD Jones and even your Ghost Runners will go away with all those tags. So
right.
I think having a diverse economy is important.
So you had a pretty decent opening here, though. Started, I believe you mulliganed for workshop, which is pretty cool.
Yes, the tutorial said to do that, and I've decided it's important for this version of Nasir, so I'm always mulligan for the workshop.
So how do you feel about workshop as the centerpiece of the deck? I know it is in most Nasir decks, but I have always felt that the Nasir deck should generally just work without workshop, and workshop should just kind of push it over the end, push them over the top if you when you get it.
I don't think you can be all in on the workshop with the current way how powerful the corps are. I think you need to have a diverse sort of way to get money, and I found that the workshop is great, but I think it should only be part of your econ plan. And that's why I kind of want to try it with Workshop and Opus. Yeah. And so you can go either way depending on what the corp's doing. Because the long money with Opus that can't be disrupted by tagging is important, especially because Nasir's big weakness is tags.
So maybe this might be something we could discuss a little bit as the game progresses, but do you see that Nasir needs a kind of early game economy and then a late game economy?
Well, I see that he's awesome because he can run on low credits because with unresed ice. So that's like a benefit, right? But I don't necessarily think being poor all the time is a good way to sort of exploit that ability. It's sort of like if I am poor, I still can run, but not I should be poor all the time so the corp can't take my money. That's the thing that I've come to realize. Like I don't really want to being poor all the time isn't a good option with the way the game is right now.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, and that's kind of my philosophy with them too. Like you want to have kind of a median amount of credits, maybe like 4, 5, or 6 credits consistently, so that you can do stuff, right?
Right.
And the rest of your deck can kind of be like complementary, as long as it keeps you around there. There's a recent game I cast which had one of our local players, Jared, who was playing an Underworld Contacts deck of Nasir that did a similar thing. He kept himself at about 3 credits, 4 credits the whole every single turn, which was pretty cool.
Right.
And it, it rewarded him. Just having that ability to always be running no matter what. Anyway.
Yeah, you do need a certain amount of money floating all the time, and if you ever have to interrupt your tempo by having to click for credits or do anything like that, it feels really bad, and the corp seems to get way ahead when you have to do that. So that's the problem. I'd like to figure out some mix of money that lets me have floating money all the time.
Right, right. Now, just to get back to what's actually happening here in the game,
Yes.
looks like Cassidy just scored a what is that?
He scored a hostile takeover,
Right.
and he's playing power shutdown, which I had the sharpshooter. I saw that, and so I stuck the sharpshooter out to eat the the incoming power shutdown, because I didn't want to lose my data sucker.
Right, right. Did you know he was playing Power Shutdown? He might have said it.
I saw it on the top of the deck on one of my runs on that, so I knew it was coming, and it actually is a little bit of a problem because you can't lose the data sucker in this version of the deck. I don't feel like you need it. You need it.
Yeah, I agree. That might be an argument for not taking out Inti actually. In
Right.
this
Yeah. So this one
particular
doesn't
build.
have Inti in it. I don't.
No, it
think.
does. It does.
Oh, this one does have
Yeah,
Inti.
yeah,
Yes.
it does. Yeah.
The funny thing is we played again, same matchup this week, and he power shut down the Inti. So I mean,
Ooh.
the Inti's at 0, so that comes right. You pops that right away, and there's only one. So, you run out of clone. You'd only have 3 clone chips.
Right. Well, Power Shutdown is really good against admin based decks, just simply because it's hard to power shut down everything the Shaper has because clone chip is really good,
Right.
and it just sits there at 1. But if you're recurring a bunch of those power shutdowns for whatever reason with Jackson, then you're looking at like 4, maybe 5 a game. That's brutal. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's the sort of game you have to play with Shapers as the corp. You have to run them out of clone chips, and you get to keep a close eye on their clone chips because that's where their tricks are coming from. A lot of them, especially Nasir. And if you can run them out of clone chips, then you have a good shot. It's a different kind of a war. Like it's not necessarily with his credits; it's with his tricks, and
Right.
his tricks are clone chips. His tricks are clone chips. So
Right, right. So you have Order of Saul and
Order of Saul, yes, Order of Saul is awesome. I like it a lot, especially because you can use it on the corpse turn. But again, it's another moving part, and I'm not very good with the math on it yet.
Right.
So and the use of it, and it's one more thing to fiddle around with. So you do a lot of fiddling with Nasir with the workshop and Order of Saul, and it can make your turns long and lead to mistakes unless you're very practiced with the deck.
So here's a good example. You run into the ice wall, and on approach, spend all your money and your bad pub as soon as possible.
Yes.
Right? So now you've got 2 RDIs and a clone chip. This is really quite strong on, I think this is probably turn 3 or 4. And you've already got 2 RDIs, a clone chip, Order of Salt. This might actually be turn 5, but really, really good board state for you. He's got essentially an open R&D, right?
Essentially, but I don't really want to be triggering Architect over and over again for him, even though it's free access in there, and I could probably overwhelm him with the R&D interfaces. Like there's no way he could get rid of all the agendas.
Right.
But at the same time too, I don't really want him to be using it to install more ice.
Oh yeah, that is a problem. Yeah, you don't want more face down ice walls, I guess. Right.
Ice wall is actually very bad for Nasir too, and Atman sort of stuff because it can be you can start to vary the strength on the ice walls. So I don't have like a one. So Inti is bad to pump, and
Right.
I don't have a one-stop solution with an Atman. Like it's always that the strength always fluctuates on the ice wall. So I can't just have an Atman and set to that strength and forget about it.
Right. So let's talk about the suite a little bit for those who haven't seen contrasts. No Sleep Natman build on Netrunner DB. I'll have a list for you below and a link. So you're playing Atman, of course, right? As the name sort of goes. And what are you complementing Atman with?
I believe he has like an Inti, a Deus Ex,
A sharpshooter. We saw one of those go.
a sharpshooter, probably two parasites, I believe, is in the list.
It's mostly Anarch cards, am I right?
Yeah, it's mostly Anarch cards. I'm not sure if there's Mimic. Let me see if I can. Let me pull up the list myself because.
I don't think there is, but that was something I was going to ask you about. Knowing that Architect is such a huge, like, kind of focal point now in Corp strategy, especially as a one of, or even in HB like as a three of, maybe sometimes.
Right.
Could you see yourself playing a singleton Mimic in this deck?
Yeah, mainly because that gets around Atman and Caduceus, which is another piece of ice that Nasir doesn't really love.
Yeah, it is quite annoying. That's interesting. I wonder whether or not what you would take out for that. Maybe like, as far as the other influence goes, aren't you playing like 3 Cyberfeeders, right?
Yes, yes.
And 3 Stimhacks.
Yes, so that's the big trick is he's using the burst economy of Stimhack and the workshop to pay for the expensive pieces like the toolbox and the RDIs and surprise and maybe even surprise the corp in a remote when they weren't counting on him having enough money to install his stuff and get in. But that does come with the brain damage, and if Worlds is any indication, Jinteki is pretty powerful. So
Yeah.
taking brain damage against everybody is not necessarily a great idea. And even against Blue Sun, I'm a little leery of it because I don't like to dip my hand size below a certain amount, because if I go to even with Plascrete out, they can still find ways to double scorch you if your hand size gets too low and you're not able to hold, more than 3 cards.
Right, you just hit a Taurus and you're, not prepared for it.
Right.
That's bad. So we have those 6 cards. Which of those, if you had to choose between Cyberfeeder and Stimhack, or maybe even taking out a Parasite, what would you take out to add the Mimic?
I would probably take out one of the Cyberfeeders, and I think one of the Stimhacks could go. I don't think you need 3. The Cyberfeeders are nice, but they take up 3 slots in the deck, and card slots are pretty precious in this deck. And I'm not sure, especially since Shaper does have a little bit. They have their own sources of recurring credits. So going outside and spending influence on recurring credits is a little bit. I don't necessarily know if that's the right thing to do.
I see. So would you go to something like Cloak and just play more memory, or would you go to just go up to 3 like toolboxes? Also, that's the console I believe you're playing in this deck.
Yeah, it is a toolbox. I might try a combination of maybe a Ghost Runner and an Omni Drive, maybe a one-off Omni Drive. I don't necessarily think 3 toolboxes is the way to go, because that's another thing is like when you start drawing and you start drawing into multiple toolboxes, the dead draws really start to hurt you. Like it's a wasted click basically when all your dead draws are wasted clicks, and it's just the game's so fast right now you can't be wasting that many clicks on the dead draws.
That makes sense. I'm really fond of Cyberfeeder. Actually, I think it's a great card. One of the reasons I love it in this build, you only have 2 sources of memory, and they're 2 toolboxes, so they're fairly expensive. And for this particular build, I think it's a wise choice because it doesn't take up memory. It adds to your capability of putting an Atman into play at 2 maybe or 4, and other shenanigans, getting through ice walls that helps out, getting through pop-up windows that helps with that, things like that. That said, like one of the questions I've sort of had in the back of my head when I'm
going to get Jackson.
Oh, you're gonna get Jackson. You're gonna kill.
I'm going to kill Jackson. Yeah, he's had it there for a long time, and I'm Jackson living he lived way too long, and Jackson. Something I've been trying to make sure I don't do is let the Jacksons hang around on the board. But just. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry, it's okay. I guess my question was, how many recurring credits is too many credits? Like, how much does Nasir need?
Okay, so this is the thing. It's a little synergy thing with the deck. The Cyberfeeders would be great if all my breakers. So it's like the power shut. He has power shutdown now. If all my breakers were 2 or more, and the Cyberfeeder was serving double duty as protecting my breakers from stuff like that, then I would like it. But the breaker is inty. The barrier breaker is inty. So if it was a corroder in there, maybe I'd be on board with the cyber feeders and like a mimic and stuff, because that keeps power shutdown. It's sort of a shield against another shield against power shutdown. And then I might like them a little bit more. So that comes down to sort of a choice on what your barrier breaker happens to be. So if it wasn't inty, I would be okay with the cyber feeders in the deck as another shield for stuff like power shutdown.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's kind of what they do, right? Sort of
Right.
like prepaid voice pad protects Kate decks a bit, right? I mean,
Right.
oh,
It's
that's
not
interesting.
vital. It's not vital, so it's okay to lose, right?
Right.
And that if it was also serving that sort of double duty, I think I'd be happier with it. I just think influence is so precious, and there's so many things you could be bringing in. I mean, like I don't think he has an imp in this list, right? Like that's an awesome card for Nasir, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
also influence intense though.
right, and then a fairy is another awesome card that you'd also like in here sometimes. And David is another card, right? So the influence choices are really tough, and I'm not sold that the reoccurring credit, especially in a faction with its own reoccurring credits, should be using
Hmm.
its influence on something like that.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable complaint. It's one of those things I've always been worried about too. Like, what do you spend your influence on? You know, tried all sorts of things. Um, anyway, getting back to what Cassidy's trying to do. He's trying to score here, as it looks like, behind a
Yeah,
one ice deeper mode. Yeah.
he is basically playing. I don't believe he even has Scorch, but I don't know that for certain. He's just playing a trash your stuff and score Blue Sun build.
Oh, okay. Maybe he's running punitives. I know he was trying that out, but
No,
not sure.
I think there is punitives in there. So that play, he just tried to bluff out the prior rec behind that ice. I'm not sure what that ice is, but he don't think he thought I was going to run it because I'm not showing any breakers
Hmm.
at all. So I
Oh,
just decided to run to see what the ice was, and it was something he couldn't res or wouldn't stop me. So he was trying to bluff me out. It was a very aggressive play, but
yeah.
I've from playing against him. He does like to do that. He'll just bluff if he doesn't believe that you will make the run. He'll put the agenda out there.
Huh.
So
That's kind of cool. I mean, what's interesting is he had 10 credits, so the only thing I can imagine that he couldn't res would be curtain wall, maybe
it could have been a curtain wall. It could have been. Um,
a Giannis,
I
maybe.
don't. He doesn't have that. Maybe it was a Taurus.
Oh, and it
He
would have been
does.
totally useless. It would
He
just
does have Taurus,
yeah.
and he has Architects. I know he has Lotus Field in there too. So he's playing the Architect and the Lotus Field. So his deck is very resilient to Parasite and stuff and
Hmm.
things like that. And the Atman is great, right, for both of those because you can stick an Atman at 4 or 3, and just one token will get you through that. But it's interesting because he picks them back up, and then I'm never sure where they are anymore. So
Right.
that's the awesome thing about Blue Sun is that shuffling the ice is really very powerful and confusing for the runner because it's like it operating without known quantities in Netrunner is hard, and it's the Blue Sun is very good at just shifting everything around just a little bit, and you're never quite sure.
I thought I got a glimpse of that ice, but I couldn't quite tell what it was. It almost looked like an ice wall. And if it was an ice wall, I wonder if he knew that you could get through that. Like, did you have an SMC in your heap, or what was going on there?
I'm not sure. I have a clone ship out, so
Yeah.
um, I'm not sure what he was thinking there. I'm curious. I kind of do want to see what that is now. I don't actually know. I was shocked. I was just shocked that that it wasn't something he could res because I was just it was mainly just a curiosity run to see what was over there and
Right. That's kind of the play you'd expect if someone was playing punitive, though. But then you'd expect like them to follow it up, right? Like
right
drop the prior rack, advance it, make you run it, and then kill you, right? But I
right.
guess you did have the Plascrete
I
out.
do have the Plascrete and
He
he
does
would
have
have
a punitive. Look at that. Yeah. So maybe he was planning on that, but it didn't quite work out because you played Plascrete. I'll have to go back and look, but yeah, maybe that was what he was thinking.
I also think he's feeling. I mean, the RDIs. See, this is the thing. I can't break the architect right now. The RDIs is obvious. I should obviously be running with those, right? But I
Oh,
don't have any way of getting through the architect, and I'm not. I'm not loving the idea of letting him just install more ice and cards out of the archives
right.
with the architect. So that's the problem. I'm looking for an answer for that because I want those RDIs to do something because they're not. I'm not using them right now. It's not very good play.
Right, right. So it looks like it was an archer. That would explain why he didn't res it. You had a sharpshooter in the heap, so
Right.
you had that taken care of. I'm I'm surprised in a way that he did it now though to protect Jackson. Maybe it's. I mean, you've got to get through that, right? You can't just
No,
lose your programs.
what he's trying to do is run me out of clone chips. That's why he does it. So he sort of is he knows the battle right against the shapers and it's to run them out of clone chips and he wants me to just use up all my clone chips so I can't parasite stuff
Right.
and change Atman's strength around and stuff like that. He's trying to run me out of clone chips. He also I don't think it comes up in this game, but he runs Chronos Project, so he wants me to put all the stuff in the heap, and then he's going to try to Chronos Project it all away.
Okay.
So that's sort of I think his line of thinking here that he's going to Chronos Project all my heap, and then just eliminate all the Shaper tricks he can.
I'm a fan of that card.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good one-off in a lot of different decks. I think, especially in Blue Sun with the Atlas, you can go look for it.
Right.
And you can show the runner and then stick it in your remote and say, all right, come get this or lose your heap. And it's a good way to like run them out of money and set them up for Scorch if you have it.
So now you're kind of getting set up here. The deck isn't the fastest. I mean, Atman is always tricky because each one you have to either have one on workshop with Nasir or you have to have an SMC or clone chip, right?
Right.
So I'm starting to think like Cassidy's he knows that kind of play for Nasir. So no, getting rid of that clone chip with that archer was actually a pretty good play.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now
Very
you're going to
good.
have less of a chance of getting all of your breakers out in a timely fashion.
And he knows that basically there's no unless I have a fem and this list does not have a fem I don't think. I don't have a good answer for Archer repeatedly running through Archer. Like there's no answer for repeatedly running through Archer.
Right. Yeah. I
It's,
mean,
it's
is that kind of like the thing you found about the deck is like it's missing some answers? Like it's pretty good at getting through some basic stuff, but it's missing some of those cards that I don't know get you through. I don't know, Archer, like
it's missing.
Architect. It seems like that's the problem right now.
It's basically it's putting a lot of pressure on those 3 clone chips that you have. I mean, there's a few too many things that need the clone chip to work, I think, and there's too much pressure on those 3 cards specifically. And if you run out of them or like their power shutdown, or you lose them to Taurus, or you lose them to Shattered Remains, or what have you, like the deck struggles a little bit, I think.
Right. So let's see, we're getting Inti out here.
It's interesting. Some Blue Sun players have taken Archer out, and they've taken the hostile takeovers out. But I don't really think that's a good idea. I think the threat of Archer, even if you have one off in there, and the power of hostile takeover is too powerful to take out of a Wayland deck at this point.
I think if you're definitely going power shutdown Blue Sun, you probably want the archers in there.
Right.
Just the redundancy of program destruction makes it really hard to get through everything.
Right.
So it looks like you ran through the ice wall with the Inti, and seeing a couple cards, you saw a targeted marketing.
Yeah,
and
that's funny because that's the worst card. That's actually a very bad card with a personal workshop because
yeah.
the way he knows he can just say whatever I put on the workshop and eventually he's going to get his money as long as I don't score before that.
That is kind of annoying. Yeah. I mean, you just telegraph what you're going to be playing. Free 10 credits pretty much for the corp.
He's been drawing a lot too, and that's why I'm going into the hand. That and the ice wall. I have an answer for the ice wall. I don't have an answer for that architect yet.
Now, does this version play Nerve Agent or anything like that?
I don't know if it has the nerve agent. I'm really wanting some multi-access in there. I don't believe it does because I think I'm really wanting some multi-access for HQ because these runs, while they're not super expensive, I need to be seeing more than one card at a time. And I don't think it does have nerve agent.
Okay.
I think it plays pretty straight up. I'm gonna have to look though.
I think the original list did have Nerve Agent, but I think it was taken out in a later version. So I'm not sure which one you have. You might have taken it out.
I didn't do any of this. Is the original list I think that he posted without the changes that were put in the chat. I believe he had some changes in the comments.
Right. Then I think it does. Then I think it does. But
right,
that's okay. We're learning the decks too.
It does have. It has one nerve agent, 2 parasites, and 1 nerve agent.
Okay.
So yeah, the influence is 3 Stimhacks, 3 Cyberfeeders, 3 Data Suckers, 1 nerve agent, and two parasites.
Mm-hmm.
And he has got the tech cards. He has are Net Shield, Parisha, Deus Ex Sharpshooter, and he has 1 Inti.
Okay. I mean, I like the Net Shield. I think the Net Shield's a good idea.
The 2 Replicators. Yeah, the Net Shield. I mean, just from looking at the world's results, we can see Net Shield is a good idea. Yet, the problem I have with Net Shield in this deck is I don't necessarily know if I want to be spending those. I mean, spending those credits is great, but the deck already runs very poor. So that 1 credit, while it might not be much for prepaid Kate or somebody like that, it's kind of a big deal in this deck.
Yeah. Well, one thing you could always just do is sit it on Workshop, and then when you need it, kind of bring it out. But I mean, one of the problems that you don't play it in this matchup. Obviously, you're not expecting to take much net damage at all, right? So
right.
So it's just sort of a tech card for the personal evolution and maybe even the replicating perfection matchup, right?
Right.
So it looks like though you're getting your reg finally kind of assembled here with an Atman and a clone chip on personal workshop, and that's got to make Cassidy a little bit worried because I think you're eyeing R&D. You've been kind of like waiting and biding your time, but now you're probably like, yeah, I should probably use these RDIs instead of contesting remotes, right? So
he's done. Yes, it is. But see, in the meantime, I was thinking he'd been drawing so much with Jackson that his hand had to have I felt like his hand had to have agendas in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to keep the remote. I mean, the archers, I'm not getting through there, but I was trying to keep the remote and HQ locked up, stop, head the agendas off at the pass, and then go into R&D to finish the game.
Right.
But it did not work, and he got the Atlas counter, which is not good for me because it means he can. I don't know if he fetches the power shutdown, but it means he can go get a power shutdown. And so, like my data sucker right now. Right, my Inti and my Data Sucker are vulnerable to power shutdown. Should I pull them out with a clone chip? And again, he's really challenging my clone chips. He's stretching the limits of what they can do. Right, there's no levy. Right, so once these 3 clone chips are gone, then I'm out of those tricks.
Right. I don't know how much the deck needs levy. I know that Chuck really likes it, one of our other local players, and I know that a couple others, just usually love having 1 in a Shaper deck just in case, because you do tend to draw through your deck pretty fast,
Right.
Especially if you're doing something like, I don't know, a prepaid Kate with like 3 times like quality times and diesels, right? Like then you're going to go through your deck like super fast.
Right.
But I don't know if it's necessary in this deck. It is useful, especially if you're doing kind of like a parasite recursion strategy, and it is really good against personal evolution. That's one thing that's great. So like it could be instead of the what do you call it? It's Net Shield. It could be like your way of dealing with personal evolution. It's not granted to work as well because you could get sniped out of your hand or whatever. But if you draw it late, it's a fantastic card in that matchup.
Okay, so here I go, finally into R&D. Ice Walls. See, again, Ice Wall, this is another thing. Ice Wall is just bad. Not necessarily because of the the advancement, but I mean, he's just taking any floating money that I do have. He's making me dump right away
Right.
with Ice Wall, and he keeps picking him. He can keep picking him back up and doing it again. So like he has a continuous way to basically kill all my floating money. He just keeps picking up Ice Walls and sticking him back down in front unresed, and there's nothing I can do about that.
Oh man, that is frustrating. You mean you do have Inti, you just pay one to get through them, right? So it's not that
Right.
bad, but it does bankrupt you every single time you do it.
Right.
Um,
So I can't keep I can't keep floating. I can't keep a little floating stack of credits that I want. And that's another thing that Nasir has trouble running repeatedly. So which is why I kind of want a little bit more burst with like Maker's Eyes and stuff like that, because I just want to run once, see some cards, and then go on with my business. I don't want to have to run repeat. I don't want to have to make all those repeated runs because it's not something He's great at doing.
right. So wait, do you have is that Atman 3 power counters, and you
Yes.
have another one on the workshop, and that's going to probably come off and go at 0 or 1?
I believe it's going to be 0
Okay.
because I have the Inti.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's one thing you maybe could have foreseen because you knew he had power shutdown. You might have thought that like the Inti's not long for this world or something like that, and
My problem is he could also just play the I'm advance the ice wall to 2,
oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I don't have a data sucker, so there's all sorts of problems going on in this game, and I don't have answers for them.
That's kind of sorry, we're talking a lot generally about the deck, but and not so much about the matchup. But it is an interesting matchup. He's getting an R&D. It's going to cost him 3, and he does have enough quite to get in. But one of the things I've always been worried about with Nasir is getting locked out, where you have your Atman, you have a data sucker, maybe even 2, and then you just happen to hit an ice wall at 1 or 2, and you
Right.
don't have the Atman at 2, and you just can't get back. You can't get your data suckers anymore. So like,
Well, the thing about data sucker 2 is, and why it's so awesome in Andy and Criminal in general, is they're paid to run, right? So like it's
right,
just sort of another thing that it's a good thing that happens while they're doing what they want to be doing. Nasir isn't paid to run at all. I mean, he's paid to. I mean, he may or may not be paid to, depending on
right,
their ice setup, right? So data sucker doesn't. I don't get as much mileage out of data sucker, and I find myself, especially I played another game with Cassidy against the same deck, just starved, and against your Foundry deck, just starved for data sucker tokens,
yeah, yeah.
because I can't run enough. And I don't have security testing. Oh, I got an Atlas out of there.
That's pretty
so.
good. I mean, it is paying off. It's slow but surely. And you do take the brain, of course, from the Stimhack.
From the Stimhack, yep.
Yeah, I do like Stimhack though. I mean, it's really great because going from 0 to 9 in a run, it's just fantastic as Nasir. Like,
Right.
it is still problematic that you don't want to Stimhack so much into like an unresed ice to try to get a Sand Sand because you'll just lose all your cash. But I mean, it's a great way to get Atman out, which is exactly what you did. Um,
See, now if I had been playing, I think I'm not. Well, maybe he's. Oh, I know it's coming. Yep.
Yeah.
Will-O-Wisp.
So Will of the Wisp that's Cassidy's favorite card, I think.
He likes that one a lot.
Yeah.
So this is his deck. I mean, after playing a couple times, it's just the mess with your programs deck, and I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah. It's super annoying, especially when you need those programs to do anything, right?
So now I'm basically locked out on the ice walls. Oh, I have a
No,
data
you have a
sucker.
data sucker token.
I do have the data sucker.
So you got to go like really hard on the R&D now, right? Actually,
See,
you can get R&D and HQ. You can
I
do
can get
either.
HQ. See, I would love. That's where I'd love a legwork or something like that.
Right,
Just
right.
One time, just dip in there try to win.
And I think it's reasonable to like splash for 1 legwork in Nasir. Like you go through your deck fairly fast anyway.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'd be cool like just having 1 and not even like a same old thing. Like you don't have to go all in on the event, economy or event anything because event economy is awful in Acer anyway. But like,
Right.
having just a singleton legwork is so freaking good. And because when you can read your opponent, like, oh, he's holding agendas because I can get into that remote. Like, they are just going to like fold to a 1 legwork, and here would be a great moment, right? Because I think he's
Yep.
holding like 1 or 2 agendas in his hand. Oh god! And so he uses the Atlas token to go
Yep,
find his power shutdown and
that's
blow
right.
up your data sucker, and that keeps you out. That's annoying. Yeah.
So my indie's gone and my data sucker's gone. So then again, like if I was playing Corroder, I would be like, all right, goodbye, Cyberfeeder, no big deal,
Mm-hmm.
and it would have been shielded, right? But I don't have the Corroder, so this is where the problem with the inti. See, like power shutdown, it's interesting because power shutdown, when sort of Wayland cycled out of the meta, power shutdown did too,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, now that Blue Sun's back, I expect to see power shutdown a lot more. So I think thinking about things like what guards your programs, like what hardware can guard your programs. Um, is important when is going to be important going forward when building decks, especially if I mean it looks to me that Blue Sun's here to stay. So I think when you're making your deck, look at the strength of your programs and look at the strength of your sort of hardware shields, I guess, and maybe plan around that, seeing a little bit more Wayland than you're used to.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I mean, thinking about your cyber feeders more as a utility that you it's good to have, but less that you just need extra credits to get in because you can get one credit. That's not too hard, right?
Nope. Yeah,
But
it's not bad.
it's not. I mean, especially if you have an Order of Sol out, you always have one credit. But that's one of the reasons I love Order of Sol. But like, I think if you had it like as you said, like as a protection for your corroder, or even for like,
Snowball or
snowball, lady,
late.
like
Yeah.
something
Right.
like that. Another admin, it just seems more fluid in this. Maybe that is where Nasir needs to go. Like he needs to start using cyber feeders as defense. Um,
Or some sort of like hardware like that as just a buffer
right.
in between there.
So you've got the old toolbox now.
Yep. See, at this point, like the game's gone long enough that I sticking it on the workshop just so I can get mileage out of the workshop. But in terms of like the length of the game and the amount of use I've gotten out of the cyber feeder money, and in the possible toolbox money, um, I don't think it's going to have much impact.
Hmm. So do you think that toolbox? I mean, I like it in Nasir just because having two link, two credits is awesome, and two extra MU. But what doesn't make it work for you?
It's one of those condition. It's one of those conditional cards. Like if you get it out very early, yes, it's great. But right now, this is like the game is we're in the midway point. If nearing the end of the game, like I'm on match point, he has 3 points.
Yeah, 3 points. He just
Three
scored a
points scored.
government or a hostile takeover.
Hostile takeover, and like the realistic amount of money use I'm going to get out of the toolbox is very low. But he has given me two bad pubs, so he's basically paying for my toolbox. But there goes the targeted marketing, and he
Yeah.
says toolbox, right? So eventually, I'm going to have to give him 10 credits.
That is a bit annoying. I don't know how much you really care though at this point, right? I mean, really, the only thing he can do is what res another. He's been resing ice walls. He could res a Taurus, I suppose, or he could try to punitive you. But you have protection.
Right.
I mean, what is there anything that you saw that maybe we glossed over or missed that you might be afraid of at this point?
Well, he at one point he was actually pretty low on money. I think maybe it's not coming. Maybe it's not yet, but he gets very low on money, and trying to keep me out, and giving him the 10 credits basically just lets him back in the money. So I don't think it hasn't happened yet, but he ends up getting resing some ice and getting pretty poor, and then I'm sitting there dreading the toolbox coming off because I could open his options all the way back up again by giving him the 10 credits.
Right.
So it hasn't happened yet, but I think that's coming up.
Okay. So definitely, there's something to think about.
Oh yeah, there's the data sucker, another data sucker.
Yep. Yep.
So I remember him not being. He's like, oh man, he wasn't very happy about that.
Yeah, I know. Cassie hates data sucker in a way that I can't explain. It's just like super annoying. It's, I don't know. I like it. But the thing here is that the big problem here is that ice wall. Like, there are a couple things you could do from what I saw in your hand. Like, I think you had another clone chip, right? Maybe not. Let's see if we can get a glimpse here. You really would, it'd be great to kind of parasite the ice wall, like at end of turn. That'd be great.
Mhm.
He'd probably start, bringing him back to hand. But man, Gotta get in there, man. Try to get in there.
So he's stuck at Kronos Project in that remote behind the Archer. So he's trying to lock me out with the Kronos Project.
Oh man, that's pretty brutal. I don't know if there's any way you can realistically get in there.
No, and that's the problem.
No,
That's the thing. It's like, I mean, sharpshooter's the answer, right? But
right.
we're stretching the limits of what a clone chip can do.
Do you think that's a problem Nasir needs to kind of work on more generally? Is to not be reliant on middle of the run effects? Like
I think so a little bit, because I was thinking about what would happen if you actually had stuff like Gordian Blade and Corroder. And then you sort of, whatever sentry you feel good with, maybe it's Fem, maybe it's a combination of Fem and Mimic. And then they're resing the ice, and you're using your tricks to avoid, getting wrecked by Archer. But you're also able to pay your way through. Like when they res the ice, you're just able to pay your way right through whatever they res. And sort of use his ability that way. Like by having the rig already going, and then when they res the ice, they're just basically paying you to get in.
Right.
Instead of being so reliant on Parasite and Atman and Data Sucker, just all those moving parts needing to work together, just having a little bit more, like a little bit more stable foundation.
So do you think he would benefit more from a more, this sounds weird, but a standard rig? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's the one thing I haven't really tried. Like, so I've tried Chuck's, Wormicite, or the Wormicite one, right?
Right.
And that's what I started out with. And then I'm trying this one, which is Atman only. And I think the developers, FFG, have done a really good job of making sure that like the runners can't just one-stop shop anymore. And like, there's not just one answer, whether it's Parasite or Atman and Data Sucker for everything. And I mean, with the ice, like Architect and Lotus Field and just, general like foolery like Will-O-the-Wisp and Power Shutdown, there's not just one answer anymore. So as the runner, you need, I think it's a little bit better right now to have a more stable foundation, and then use your clone chips for the tricks that keep you from getting your rig blown up, instead of trying to make all your accesses through these. I think it's just putting way too much pressure on clone chip right now to do that. So I actually haven't tried like a standard rig with Nasir yet. So maybe that's the thing I'll try next.
There are a couple pretty interesting ones floating around on Netrunner DB, though, I have to say. So it's kind of interesting, kind of like with Cypher as a kind of like backup code gate breaker.
I was thinking of that one. That's a very cheap way to get through all the strength 4 code gates. It's just like one credit.
And especially if you're trying to lock down R&D, like that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just a four strength code gate, that's fantastic.
Gets through toll booth is 4 credits.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 credits.
Plus, if you're running that, you might be running a Fem because of Scavenge, so that might be a good kind of combo
to
think about. Okay, so what's going through your mind here? It's your turn. You're like, I've got all this stuff I need to get through, but I don't have the means to do it. So what is your plan? How do you get out of this?
Let's see. Did he take my heap out of the game already?
Yeah, he did.
He did. So my plan, I'm stuck because the NT was in the trash.
Right.
And I don't have another way through I don't have a way through the ice walls, basically.
Right. There's one more Atman in your deck.
There is one more Atman.
So
my problem with that is like I just dread that, because all he has to do is just change the strength on those ice walls, and then the Atman's useless. That's why I'm kind of like, like this is the realization that I was up 5-0 on him and I might lose this game I think it's hitting me right now.
Maybe I mean you just need like 1 or 2 really good accesses, right?
Right.
And then he'd have to clear virus counters or do
so
something.
That's why I'm sort of like, well, if I was playing a regular rig, then so there's the Nerve Agent. We have the Nerve Agent.
Yay. I like Nerve Agent in this build. It's an interesting card. You usually don't get that many accesses though in HQ. I found, but multi-access is necessary. You have to have access.
I ran the archives there, I think, and there was nothing in there.
No res, nothing. You got your sucker token though. Now you can get in. Maybe.
I did get my sucker token.
You should try it again, I think. Well, what would future you tell past you?
I think that there's probably another power shutdown in my future.
I think you might be right. That's sad. Man, it's so bad getting power shutdown. It's
Well, I just remember when Power Shutdown first came out, everyone was playing that card, right? And then it sort of went away, and I forgot about it and was happy in general because no one was playing it anymore. But it's pretty brutal in some matchups. Shaper is the best one to equip to deal with it, right? But when I'm relying on clone chip, it's actually not great. It's not a great thing for me.
Yeah, and data sucker. I mean, you're really more reliant on data sucker, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Okay, so Cassidy installs behind his Archer remote, fairly confident because he's gotten rid of your sharpshooter.
Yeah, so unless I have some other trick in there, I'm not getting through an Archer.
He did not advance it, so very unlikely that it's a 5-pointer. I think it was an Atlas, another Atlas in his hand. Yeah, indeed it was. I think he's going to rethink this order play here. I mean, you've got. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't really know. Oh, maybe he's thinking that I could run archives a few times.
Oh, right. You
and
could.
then come all the way over to the remote. But I don't. Again, he hasn't res the ice. I'm not exactly sure what it is.
I mean, if it's a Taurus, that's not good news for you. Because if it was a Taurus, he could put. Oh no, he's installing something there. All right, it's not anything. Who knows what it is?
I see. I think he realized, like, okay, his way in is data sucker tokens and then running the remote. So he changed the ice on the remote.
It could have been. Oh, I bet it was an architect because you could have just walked through that.
Yeah, it could have been an architect. Yeah. Well, that's the thing about architect, there, right? So I could walk through it once, but then I have the Atman at 3, so it actually would have been okay. Oh, there's the Lotus Field.
Oh man, it is. Cassidy is just all sorts of prepared for an Atman build.
And I don't have one at 4. See, this is where I'm like, give me a scavenge. I need to scavenge, and I don't think the deck has a scavenge in it.
It doesn't have one, but it could use one. I mean, just as a one-off kind of utility card, I think that's a really good idea.
This is where Cypher or even Gordian Blade would be awesome, right? I'm just like, oh, I don't even Lotus Field. I don't care about you.
Right. Huh. I'm gonna do some experimenting with that because I like Cypher. And I haven't
very, very efficient.
Yeah. I mean, it's 1 to break Lotus Field. It's so good. And you know they're only going to play like one Lotus Field anyway, right? So you just put it on wherever the Lotus Field is and then run through repeatedly.
Right. Well, that's a cool thing about Blue Sun, though, is he can move it around. So
yeah, that's true. He's giving you a lot of credits every turn he reses it, though.
Yeah, I love Hive and I love Lotus Field. Those are Nasir's 2 favorite ice. It's like running into Hive. It's like, oh, just free money.
Fast track. That fast track, you must have pulled it out of his hand 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah, I saw it a lot. Good one off in pretty much all corp decks.
Yep.
And Neareth Hub has the rep for playing the fast track, but I think every corp could benefit from looking for an agenda from time to time.
You've almost got enough to run through that Archer. 2 for the I mean, you got HQ locked down. Do you have another click? I think you have 1, right? So do you go for that Archer? I mean, do you go for that, what is probably an agenda? We know it is an agenda, but you didn't know it is an agenda. You could Stimhack through it. Oh, Deus Ex. Okay, well, I think you could have probably stimmed through that because he had 1 credit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think you have 5 data sucker tokens. That might have been the play, but I mean, who knows? It could have been another Archer, and that would have been really bad.
So I stuck the Deus Ex on. Oh, no, this is what was happening. I set the Deus Ex on there, knowing that if the toolbox came off, he could score. Oh, no, targeted marketing is gone. Never mind.
No, it's not. It's actually at the top of the screen.
It's okay, yeah.
I'll put it on later.
So, no, so that's why I don't think I ran. So I knew, I saw you didn't have very much money, right? And if the targeted marketing, if the toolbox came off the workshop, then he was going to be loaded with money again. So okay, this is where he goes. I think this might be a mistake, but so he picks up the archer. So he
Hmm.
picks up the archer, I believe, to score the Atlas.
Right. So he scores the Atlas. Now there's nothing in hand, but you're still stuck. You still can't get into R&D, which is a huge problem.
Yeah,
Um,
Lotus Field is doing its job right now,
oh
and this is
man.
where I would just love if I could scavenge the Atman to 4. You know,
Yeah.
I think we would win right here, but
I think you're right. No, I mean, you would have R&D lockdown. He doesn't have an agenda in hand. So he's looking to draw one. He's just hoping
well,
you don't draw that
he could
Atman.
actually fast track one if he wanted to, and then
That's true.
and although I have nerve agent, so I don't think he's really I don't think he wants to do that. He was actually very worried at this point of the game. He thought I was going to win, but
Oh, there's a replicator.
yeah, not what I want to see. I was like anything but that, right?
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
not-
at
that-
this point of the game, it doesn't really do anything. Um, there are two replicators in here, and I'm going to paraphrase Contrast's explanation for them. I think that he said they're really great to pull all the other stuff you don't want out of your deck, so you don't draw them, basically, right? So it's like, oh, you're getting 3 cards here.
yeah,
Anything? Oh, no.
I've punitive. I've seen punitive and the archer that he picked back up.
Right, right. Ah, Blue Sun is so strong.
So this is the problem though. So he picked up the archer and he has 1-pointers. And that's the problem, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to run into that archer is going to come back. And he knows I don't really have a great answer for it right now. So I believe he's going to purge. He sees that I have tokens and he's going to
Right.
set up for an archer play coming up here, I believe, by purging. And the nerve agent's obviously scary because you can't just keep letting somebody in and seeing your entire hand.
Right. The Taurus is in his hand, so you're not going to lose that, but there's probably another Ice Wall over Archives. Um, okay. Oh, that's interesting. All right. Pulls up.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, up goes Lotus Field.
Yeah. And he draws a Pyrrhec.
Yep.
Discards the Lotus Field. And something else. All right. So he did just draw and purge, and that is pretty tough. So what do you do now? What do you do now? Do you go into HQ? You can't go into
I
HQ.
can't.
Do you go into Archives? I guess you have to, right? He's kind of forcing
I
you.
gotta try because there's no other way to get tokens.
Do you like manically draw through your deck? Oh,
I-
there
I-
you go.
Oh, there's the SMC, but I'm not really sure what's left at this point.
So you have one more Atman.
I have one more Atman.
You have one more
yes.
Atman, and you might have another Parasite. I'm not sure.
I might have another parasite.
So now let's see. Your memory is at 1, 2, 3, 4. So you need to pull that toolbox off workshop, giving him 10 credits.
Yep.
Then you need to play the SMC, and then you need to get your Atman at either 1 or 4. Right? Oh man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Seems doable. You have Stimhack. You could Stimhack through everything. It can happen.
In the back of my mind, though, I know at some point I'm going to see an archer too.
Ugh. It's still good. Archer's still one of the best ice in the game, man.
It's still good. Yeah.
This is one of those moments where you're just kind of doing the math with Nasir. Okay, how many credits will I have? Can I get the Atman at 1, which would cost 4 plus the 2 for SMC? You know,
I mean, the Atman at 1 is probably the right answer, except that he just goes, okay, ice walls. These ice walls are now 2s.
yeah.
And then
but you get in once, right? So you get in once.
I get in once.
and then he'll have to purge. But then you still have an Atman at 1. So basically, you get in once, and you guarantee that he has to pick up that ice wall.
So right now, I think I have $5 and 2 bad pub. So there goes the SMC,
And the Atman at 3.
and I lose the nerve. I get rid of the nerve agent
Okay.
and the Atman at 3.
I don't know about that. I might have pulled the toolbox off. I know that you don't want to give him any credits, but Oh, all right. I see what you're doing here. So you're making a run using SMC to get Inti out and go into R&D. That's pretty big.
Yep.
So first card is nothing. Second card. Third card, nothing. Oh, man.
Yep. That was a pretty good shot right there. That was like, what, 60%, right?
That was a
Depending on.
good play. Yeah, no, that's... I forgot that Inti was in there. I thought that somehow... it got shuffled back. That's
It
what I
was the
forgot.
Will-O-Wisp bucket on the bottom. Yeah. So
Will-O-the-Wisp.
SMC let me get that.
Oh, man, another reason why Will of the Wisp is not good with Chronos Project.
He's looking through my trash that he removed with Chronos Project.
I bet he forgot that he put Inti at the bottom, too.
Maybe.
Because
That's why I think I was thrilled to see him pick up the Lotus Field.
that was pretty big. He's got a Pyrrhec in hand, man. Oh, that's so crazy. He's got to be a little worried right now. Do you just score the Pyrrhec or try to go for it behind that, whatever that is? Can't be that good.
Well, he's not worried. I mean, I trashed the Nerve Agent, probably a mistake, but he's not really. His hand's like pretty secure now.
Yeah, the Nerve Agent might have been. Looking at it, I might have just like kept the Nerve Agent, put the toolbox out, and
putting
run
the
a bunch of
toolbox out
knives.
was probably the play, but giving him 10 credits at this point, I mean, it probably didn't matter that much, but it's one of those things where you just like that would felt like the
Stop.
game to me if I gave him 10 credits too.
Sure. That's kind of how I like, sort of like the way I play an Aesir has always been.
So he picks up the Ice Wall. That's the awesome thing about Blue Sun. He just picks up the Ice Wall now and then sticks something else down there,
And
right? So he's like,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
no more Ice Walls.
It's like, what can I put down here to screw with you the most?
Yep.
I think he just put the ice wall. That was a mistake. I think that other piece of ice should be on the other side. There he goes. Okay. There we go. He saw it. Sort of when I play Nasir, I kind of am of the philosophy that you just let the corp have as much money as they have. Like, if
Sure.
if they bury you in tags, they are going to win anyway, right? It's great to have some money, but you just don't really want to challenge their money so much. You just want to get the agendas faster than they could score them, kind of.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
I mean,
in hindsight, I probably should just have bitten the bullet, let him have his money. But I didn't really know. I mean, I didn't know what else. He had been struggling with money for a while there, and it's sort of that age old thing: keep the corp poor, even though they don't really stay poor anymore.
Right.
But-
So he's fast tracking. Oh man, so does he have 6 points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He does have 6 points. So
No,
next turn.
Okay, yeah. So okay, this is what he does. He fast tracks the hostile into his hand, so that one will win him the game.
Right.
And if he actually did this and if I couldn't see what it was, then I might have actually chosen to. Well, you'll see. I don't want to spoil it, but because he searches for it and I know it's in his hand, he sort of routes my run. Right? He
Right.
sort of tells me where I need to run. Even though it's a really good play because he knows I think he actually has one more in there too, but he knows that the hostile won't win me the game because I only have 5 points.
Right.
But he's actually holding 2. He's holding another agenda, I believe.
Pyrrhec is in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you score the Pyrrhec, you win.
Yeah.
So it's.
But I don't know that that's in there. And my debate, so when he does that, I know that he's gotten the hostile. I know he can win next turn. So I have to think about whether I want to run R&D with a Mystery Ice or HQ to pull what I think is maybe a 1 in 5. But I don't know he has another agenda in there.
Right. Oh, it's such a gamble. I think he takes such a gamble here. So he's got to discard something.
No, I think he still has more clicks. He hasn't done anything yet.
Oh, no, he fast tracked, right?
That's 1. So he has
that's
2
one, so he
more.
has 2 more. I thought he put something down. I guess not.
I think he's debating. I think he's going to stick some more ice in front of R&D.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
And so you'll see what happens here. Like, I'm stuck now giving him money. I have nothing left on the workshop except for the toolbox. Okay, so there goes the second piece of ice. And I'm very sad because the toolbox will give him... So if he couldn't even afford to res and score, right?
Mm-hmm.
He now can because the toolbox comes into play and he gets 10.
Oh, that's right. Hmm. That is a pickle. I mean, can you go into HQ 4 times? That's my question here. You know it's there. You got to snipe it, right?
Yep.
So, I I think this is where I always make a mistake too, right? Like, how do you spend the last? Oh, there's the Atman. That would have been awesome a long time ago, right?
So there's the Atman. Yep, I got the Atman. So then I think I have to put it on the workshop, right? Oh,
Um,
we're just realizing, that, well, because that'll let me play it and run. Like it'll let me play it and then run and then pull it, like get a free click, get the click back from playing it.
right.
So this is click 2.
Well, I'm just wondering. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely, absolutely want to put it on there then. So you got 2 clicks to make the
So
HQ run.
I put the Atman on the workshop, I unloaded Cajun's, and I'm running HQ.
Oh, okay. So I think this might have been a mistake here. I think not the run, but the Katie Jones. It wasn't super necessary because you had 4 credits. You could have taken the Atman out and put 1 on it, then 2, 3 with the Cyberfeeders. So you could have actually gotten it to 4 if you needed it.
My problem was though I knew he'd picked up Archer.
Oh, so you were worried about hitting another archer. Well, yeah, I guess though if you hit another archer, then he wouldn't have scored. He wouldn't score the next turn. So there's that. But yeah, that's. I mean, this is all woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff, right? I mean,
Right, right.
so now the big thing is not necessarily that um, uh, that you can do anything about this. Oh, did you put it at 3? How did you do that? Oh, you did put it at 3. Oh man, it always feels bad with Atman.
Yeah, I'm at a 3. So I have a 1. Oh, actually, I have a 1 in 5 to win and a 1 in 5 to stop him from winning. And I
Um,
pull a Taurus.
2 and 5 because
2
there
and 5.
was 2 agendas
2
in
and
hand.
5. 2 and 5.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
And that is game. Yep.
Oh,
That
okay.
was a long one. That game went an hour.
Yeah.
We definitely would have timed out in a tournament setting.
Yeah, that's something to consider if you want to play Nasir in a tournament. He is slow. He tends to drag the. I mean, he's not slow really, but his games tend to go the distance. They tend to be kind of,
Well, if it's not you thinking about the math, then the corp's thinking about whether they really want. There's a lot of time spent on like, am I going to res this sort of thing? Sort of on the corp from the corpse side, because playing against him, you'll sit there and you'll like, is it worth it for me to res it? And often the answer is yes if it costs them a clone chip. That's the sort of secret thing against Nasir, I think, is if you res ice, it's not about how much money it's going to cost Nasir or if he's going to destroy it. It's more about does he have to use up one of his 3 clone chips to do it, right?
right. So it's kind of like his lifelines in a way.
Right.
Like once you use
right.
them up, you're kind of SOL, right?
Right. Unless he has a full rig. So that's kind of the direction I want to take it.
Yeah.
See what happens that way, because I think it's worth exploring that. So like my idea like going forward is have a sort of diverse economy with keep a couple stim hacks, but have keep a couple stim hacks and the workshops, but throw an opus or 2 in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So and then more memory. So I'm gonna play some mem chips and maybe go for Astrolab instead.
Mm-hmm.
So I can get some draws some free draws instead of having to send all my turn drawing, because you got to draw a lot to look for the stuff for Nasir anyways.
Yeah,
So
I feel
that's sort
true.
of where I'm going to go, and then have just that nice foundation of Opus and running a little bit more traditional of a rig to see where that goes, because then I can take tags, not worry about it as much, and actually have money to go trash naked, like not being able to trash a naked Sansan in a reasonable manner is just it's not okay.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's always a little frustrating. Sansan is one of the most frustrating things to try to trash as Nasir, because they just put a pop-up window in front of it and you have to run twice, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That feels bad. Yeah, so this is part 1 of our Nasir in Focus. We'll have a couple more games focusing on this particular build, and then we're going to talk about at the end of it, how do we go forward, and along the way,
Sure.
how do we go forward with Nasir builds, and what should we be looking for, what works best. So we'll be doing a lot of different builds over this series, and trying some different stuff out, and hopefully you enjoy it. So thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for Ryan for commenting.
Anytime, Chris. Thanks for having me.
See you guys.